Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our special council meeting for Tuesday, May the 5th, 2026, and call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. We have two meetings this evening. Our first meeting is a carry forward from our April 8th, 2026 Committee of the Whole. During the council meeting tonight, the two meetings, we have an open forum, which will invite members of the public to address council. So you have 2 minutes to address council, anything you would like to speak about. I'd have you go to Madam Clerk to register. So if you haven't registered, I have you go to her to register. If you're here for water, wastewater, we'll do that at the second meeting. So the open forum, the best time to address the open forum is during the second meeting. That's when we'll bring that forward. The first meeting, there's a number of items on the agenda, and that's when we'll address the rest of the open forum matters. Sarah, can you help us with a public service announcement, please?
Apologies, just 1 second.
That's fair. I'm going to move on to the land acknowledgement. The Town of Penetanguishene Land Acknowledgement. Penetanguishene respectfully acknowledges that we're on the traditional and treaty territory of the Nishnabek people and their ancestors, now known as the Williams Treaties First Nations territory. This includes the Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Bosley First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation, Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. Also once home of the Huron-Wendat, and more recently the historic settlement of the Métis, Penetanguishene is now home to many Indigenous peoples. Penetanguishene is proud of its Indigenous name, and more importantly, that for thousands of years it has been and will continue to be an important homeland and gathering place for Indigenous people. We recognize that we are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters, and are responsible to ensure that our Mother the Earth is here for future generations. Councillor DeRush, please.
Penetanguishene reconnaît avec respect que nous sommes situés sur le territoire traditionnel et de traité du peuple Anishinaabeg et de ses ancêtres, maintenant connu sous le nom du territoire des Premières Nations visées par le traité Williams. Il s'agit du conseil tripartite des Chippewas composé de la Première Nation de Beau-Soleil, de la Première Nation de Rama, de la Première Nation de Georgina Island, de la Première Nation d'Alderville, de la Première Nation de Curve Lake, de la Première Nation de Hiawatha et de la Première Nation des Mississaugas de Scugog Island. De plus, Penetanguishene était jadis le lieu de résidence des Huron-Wendat et plus récemment d'un établissement métis historique. La ville héberge aujourd'hui de nombreux peuples autochtones. Penetanguishene est fière de son nom autochtone et le plus important du fait que pendant des milliers d'années, elle était et continuera d'être un important territoire et lieu de rassemblement des peuples autochtones. Nous reconnaissons que nous sommes les intendants et gardiens de cette terre et de ses eaux et que nous sommes responsables de veiller à ce que notre mère, la terre, soit présente pour les générations à venir.
Thank you, Councillor DeRush. Sarah, please.
Welcome to this evening's council meeting. For those of you who may require a washroom, there are public washrooms outside the council chambers entrance to your right. We also kindly ask that cell phones are turned off or put on silent during the meeting. Town Hall is protected by a single source fire alarm. Should the fire alarm be activated, please exit chambers calmly using the rear or side door and make your way down the stairs to the parking lot nearest the church. In the event of a medical emergency, please dial 911. The address of Town Hall is 10 Robert Street West, Penetanguishene. We also have public access defibrillator outside of the main council chambers. Bonjour et bienvenue à la réunion du conseil municipal de ce soir. Pour celles et ceux qui auraient besoin d'aller aux toilettes, les toilettes sont situées à l'extérieur de l'entrée de la salle, à la droite. Nous vous prions également d'éteindre vos téléphones cellulaires ou de les mettre en mode silencieux pendant la réunion. L'hôtel de ville est protégé par un système d'incendie. Si l'alarme se déclenche, veuillez quitter la salle calmement par la porte arrière ou latérale et descendre les escaliers jusqu'au stationnement le plus proche de l'église. En cas d'urgence médicale, veuillez composer le 911. L'adresse de l'hôtel de ville est le 10 rue Robert-Ouest à Penetanguishene. Un défibrillateur est également disponible à l'extérieur des portes de la salle du conseil.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, welcome everyone. We're glad to have you with us tonight. Again, there's two meetings. We'll follow from one another this evening. Council, I'll have you rise, and Councillor Vadabunker, if you can guide us in that council commitment, please.
Thank you, Worship. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed on Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those that could not be here assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all, and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabunker. Councillor Marchand, please.
Thank you, Worship. Nous sommes reconnaissants des nombreuses grâces accordées à Penetanguishene et à ses citoyens dont la liberté, les possibilités et la paix dont nous jouissons. Que nous soyons des intendants dignes de tout ce que nous ont été confié. Nous demandons que toutes les personnes présentes et celles qui n'ont pas pu se présenter nous aident à promouvoir une bonne gouvernance. Que nos décisions à titre de membres du Conseil soient éclairées et que nous soyons toutes renforcées à prendre conscience de nos devoirs et responsabilités. Que l'on nous accorde la sagesse, la connaissance, la volonté et la compréhension qui nous permettront de préserver la bonne fortune de la ville au bénéfice de tous, ainsi que de faire des bonnes lois et prendre de sages décisions. Merci pour votre présence.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. Council, moving on to the next item is approve the agenda. I have a motion reads that the agenda of special council meeting for May the 5th, 2026 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Roux, second by Councillor Marchand. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Council, does anybody have a declaration picking their interest tonight? Seeing none, next item is an open forum. Open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address council about anything that's important to you. You have 2 minutes. You need to register with Madam Clerk before that happens. Again, we will have another special council meeting when this meeting adjourns tonight. The topic on that agenda item later tonight is regarding our water and wastewater operational review. If you're here to speak about that item, it's best to use open forum at that meeting. I'll call you at that time. Madam Clerk, is anyone registered for open forum this evening?
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 2 members of the public currently registered for open forum. The first being Marilyn Henry. She's going to discuss the cemetery at St. James on the Line, a letter that she had sent in that was included on the CIP. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Marilyn, the floor is yours. I'll have you come to the podium. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And again, the 2 minutes is yours.
Not being good on my feet, I wrote it all down. I would like to thank everyone for the opportunity to address council concerning my letter of March the 21st, sent by the Anglican Parish of Penetanguishene. I note that I made an error on the letter, assuming that it was going to be public works that I would be addressing, but it is Parks and Rec, I now understand. The letter referred to the unfortunate circumstances we find ourselves in. The parish is responsible for the general upkeep and maintenance of the cemetery, and a board of parish members has been formed which operates at arm's length from the parish to conduct the business of the cemetery. Currently, income is not sufficient to cover expenses. As you are no doubt aware, this church and cemetery are of considerable importance to the town's history. Built by the British soldiers of the military establishment, the church was the first Anglican presence in the community, and many of those soldiers and officers are buried at the cemetery. As the only Anglican cemetery in the town, many of Penetang's town fathers are also interred there, as are several of the boys from the reformatory years who died there, as well as upwards of 100 veterans of various wars. We've been attempting to promote the church and the cemetery as an historic site to increase interest, both locally and through tourism due to the connection to the military establishment, now called Discovery Harbor. To that end, plans are underway to create a memorial garden in the Reformatory Boys plot. And discussion is occurring to have Waypoint patients create small white crosses, which in their woodworking program to mark the veterans' graves. Burkevale School has also been approached to try and involve students in a No Stone Left Alone program. This is similar to what Dutch children do as they are tending Canadian soldiers' graves overseas. All of these programs that we are promoting and endeavoring to facilitate right now are in celebration of the fact that this year is the 190th since the church was begun. It wasn't completed in 1836, but it started in 1836 by the officers of the military establishment at the time.
That's your time, Marilyn. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next up is Brenda McDonald, who is going to be discussing 106 Robert Street West.
Thank you. Welcome. Floor is yours, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Brenda McDonald, and I've lived on Center Street for 36 years. I was told you don't have to answer questions, but here are a few of my concerns. Has council even read the 4 letters that I've sent in and the 3 letters from my neighbors? Only 1 was acknowledged. Can you justify the amendments, or you just don't have to? Of the 52 people that signed the petition, and numerous others I've spoken to, their comments were, well, I can't see that being approved. If this is to pass, it's quite clear there are double standards for voters and of Penetang versus the developers who have no votes. The snow storage has changed areas, which I believe is worse than the first proposal. I've mentioned the snow situation and felt I was dismissed, even though I've lived here for 36 years and no one in this room has seen the snow at 106 Robert Street West. And I've watched it for 36 years. I was told once it's approved, it's out of your hands and it's up to me to deal with the consequences, which I didn't appreciate at all. With just 3 cars parking this winter, there was a bank of 10 feet high. Now there's going to be 8, so I can't imagine how high that's going to be. I can guarantee if a parking lot was against your fence in your sitting area, you would not approve this. Melting snow against fence and property line will cause fence rot, dehydrating roots of my shrubs that were planted in memory of many family members that have passed, and cause soil chemistry. I was told I could sue for the damages, but I believe someone was being sarcastic. And the snow will cause draining issues on my property. Since Robert Street West is a main artery, these setbacks are strictly enforced, are they not? Is there not a standard for snow storage, including a hauling clause? Is there also bylaws against light shining into my yard and my windows? I'd like grading to be explained how the snow melt won't affect my property. In the proposal, it says a 2-story. I was trying to say it's a 1.5 story, which I'm sure it doesn't matter, but I was dismissed with that as well. I only wanted it to be brought to attention in case it does matter. I still have time. Oh, so, and regarding amendments and bylaws and this and that, what I can't understand the math at all in this, yet somebody on Robert Street was denied a work shed that was, and told because it was too close to a skidoo trail. Now, come on.
Thank you. Sarah, is anyone online that wishes to address council this evening?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have no one online this evening.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, anyone else registered for open forum?
Thank you, Your Worship. There's no one else for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, council, we're going to move on. Next is our council information package. We have two of them, one from March 18th, 2026, and one for April the 1st, 2026. Anybody wish to pull anything for further comment or discussion? Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to pull the letter from the Anglican Parish of Penetangwisheen. Thank you. From the April 1st information package. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else pull any for further discussion? All right, floor is yours, Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you. In the letter, the Anglican parish is making a request of the municipality. I'd like to see that request looked into and then responded to. So with that, I'd like to see it added as a referral item under the Recreation Department for staff to have a look at and then report back to council.
We don't have committee of the whole this evening, but is that okay for here, Madam Clerk, if we bring that motion tonight and you just add it later? Okay. Councillor Vadabunker, you're moving a motion then for that article to add that to the future committee of the whole referral item?
Yes, Your Worship, and I did note it was kind of awkward because there is no referral items in tonight's package, but how best to deal with it, I thought that was the best way, so I would move that. Thank you.
And I'll look for a seconder for that motion, seconded by Councillor Drush. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Any other items on the CIP and wish to pull for further comment? I'm just going to highlight a couple, none that we need to pull for further discussion. On the March 18th package, there's several letters there, internal correspondence, just to bring to everyone's attention. So 1B, it was a follow-up to our Roma delegation to Minister Lumsden. We talked to Minister Lumsden regarding future multi-use recreation centers, so just a follow-up from the minister about that. There's a couple correspondence on there, Council. We've talked about Central North Correctional Centre and the policing costs. So we've had some correspondence back and forth with the Premier's office, our local member of Parliament, Adam Chambers, as well as the official opposition. So just some close the loop matters there for everyone to stay up to date on what's going on there, as well as our follow-up regarding payment in lieu of taxes. We had some correspondence since that delegation. Seeing that, we'll look for a motion. The motion reads that the council information package have been given due consideration, be received for information. There's two of them, one from March 18th and the second for April the 1st. Is moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by Councillor Leroux. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Next, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. There's many items on the consent agenda. Council, does anybody wish to pull anything for further comment or discussion? Councillor Vadabunker.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to pull the Roads Division Key Performance Indicators 2025 report for discussion.
Okay. Anybody wish to pull anything else for further comment or discussion?
Questions?
All right, we'll vote on the remaining. So the consent agenda is going to read that the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration, be received for information. All of the consent agenda items except the third item, the Roads Division Key Performance Indicators. We'll look for a mover, please. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Marshall. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Councillor Vadabunker, 9.3, the Roads Division Key Performance Indicators. It's over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a question to our director. The report is a very good report. I think it's important that we have such a report on an annual basis. It kind of gives us an idea of the work that the department is doing and how it's processing work orders and dealing with the various subject matters in the report, like asphalt roads, the sidewalk repairs, trip hazards, signage, equipment, vehicles, street lighting, et cetera, even trees. What I think is missing in the report is a deeper dive into the statistics. I'd like to see in future reports, if we could, some reference to timeframes. So for example, if we get a request and a work order is generated, is that work order dealt with and completed within 10 working days? 15 working days, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't give an indication. And I know we did talk, as an example, we talked about potholes and the filling of potholes. Well, there's specific timeframes that are outlined. That's not included in this, which is fine, but that's just an example of, when we it shows a lot accomplished, but is it being accomplished within the timeframes that we've established? So we would establish, say, a work order to replace a street light lamp. Maybe when the work order comes in, the standard is within 15 working days. And how do we do against that standard? Are we better than that standard? Or are we greater? Or, you know, it says that the street light was replaced, which is great, but are we meeting our standards in terms of number of days? So I'd like to see that in the report. One of the things we talked about with trees is that when we take out a tree or we remove a dead or diseased tree, we're going to replace a tree, or we're going to replace that tree maybe with 2 trees. It talks about work orders in terms of dealing with work orders, but it makes no mention of, did that work order, did we remove 5 trees and did we replace those 5 with 10, or what did we do? You know, it just says we had 64 work orders dealing with trees. So I'd like to see a little more detail with the report. I think it's a good report, but a little deeper dive, I think, from a standpoint in terms of key performance indicators. That performance, I think that would help us measure that performance. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Vadeboncoeur. Director Murray.
Thank you through to Councillor Vadeboncoeur. I do know that over the last year we've transitioned from our old work order system to our new work order system. So looking forward to 2026 KPI report. We'll have a lot of different and more detailed functionality that you're referring to. So we'll make note of that and make sure that that's implemented during the next 2026 report.
Thank you.
Further comments or questions on this item, Council? Councillor Vadeboncoeur, can you move that item for us?
Sure, Your Worship. I'll move.
And I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Waters. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. All right, Council, going to move on to matters for consideration. We have many, and just for everyone's interest, we had a council meeting on April the 8th, 2026, and these traditionally would fit in our committee of the whole agenda. We ran late that evening, so we moved it and deferred it to tonight. So that's where we're going to be looking at those matters now. So the first item, Council 10.1 is advanced procurement for 2027 snowplow. Motion reads that the advanced procurement of the 2027 tandem axle snowplow be approved, and that the town partner with the County of Simcoe for this procurement process. I'm going to look Councillor Vadeboncoeur to move, seconded by Councillor Marchand. Comments and questions, Council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. The next item is regarding heritage tax rebates for 2025. The motion reads that the following heritage tax rebates for 2025 tax year be approved. 1 Water Street for $2,509.49. 69 Point Street for $1,809.75. 33 Robert Street West for $2,332.42. And 14 Water Street for $2,796.29. It's moved by Councillor DeRush, seconded by Councillor Waters. Comments and questions, Council? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. The next item, Council, is regarding 106 Robert Street West zoning bylaw amendment. The motion reads that the zoning bylaw amendment application ZA 3-2025 be approved on the basis that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms to the County of Simcoe official plan, conforms to the Town of Penetanguishene official plan, and represents good planning for the reasons outlined in staff report PL 2026-07. And that a bylaw to amend the Town of Penetanguishene Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2022-17 be brought forward for approval. It's moved by? It's moved by? And that fails. Moving on, the next item is zoning bylaw amendment application ZA 1-2026 for 15 Shuffcott Street. The motion reads that the zoning bylaw amendment file number ZA 1-2026 application be approved on the basis that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms to the County of Simcoe official plan, conforms to the Town of Penetanguishene official plan, and represents good planning for the reasons outlined in staff report PL 2026-18. And that a bylaw to amend the Town of Penetanguishene Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2022-17 be brought forward for council approval. Moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by Councillor DeRush. Comments and questions? Councillor Vadeboncoeur.
Thank you, Worship. I'm troubled with this this particular one. When I read the report, it talked about a couple of things. First of all, when it's fully occupied, it talks about building in phases, and I'm going to ask for clarification on that. But when it's fully occupied, it's my read of the report is that there's going to be 62 children that could be accommodated in this daycare facility, and it talks about parking not being an issue. And I recognize the parking is primarily for the staff. There will be some drop off, but if you can picture in your mind 62 cars coming at a designated time to pick up their children at this daycare facility, a Chefcott is not a very long street. And Fuller Avenue is a very busy street. Pine Grove is across that intersection. Disclosure, my son lives on Oxley, which connects with Chefcott. So I drive there on a regular basis, and I'm just very, very concerned with the stacking of cars on Chefcott waiting to pick up children at the daycare. There's one entrance, there's parking, and then there's one exit. I'm concerned about that. So to my question, Your Worship, with respect to the phasing, do we have any indication of how this construction is to be phased? I couldn't read it in the report. It just talked about it was going to be phased.
Director Betty?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Vadaboncourt. So the phasing is really in regards to opening of the different spaces within the building. And so the initial phases would be the main floor itself, and the second phase would be the second floor. So all would be constructed at the same time. It just is more of the timing of when those phases would be opened. So I hope that clarifies how the two phases work.
Councillor Vadaboncourt?
Thank you. And if I could ask another question of the director, is there a mechanism under the Planning Act that we could restrict the opening of that second phase until such time as we've seen how the first phase is going to operate? Like if I look at simple math, divide 62 in half, that's 31 kids. How does the traffic work? How does the stacking, parking, everything work with 31? And then if we're satisfied, maybe we can allow the second phase to be occupied. Is there a mechanism that council could use?
Director Betty?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Vadaboncourt, not under the Planning Act, unless we apply some zoning changes to it. As I noted, this would be more of an occupancy and under the Ontario Building Code, so they would be building the whole building. I don't believe through this process we could restrict occupancy at a future stage.
Council, any other comments? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's for Director Betty. Well, is there any other thing that we could look at? I think for the most part, I don't have a problem with the building being where it is. I think a daycare right there is a good thing. I don't have a problem with the 62 children, but I do have a problem with the parking. I'm the same as Councillor Vadaboncourt. You go by there a lot. I just don't see how 15, 20 people at a time can show up with, they set up to 13 staff, but they're only having a few parking spaces. So is there another way that we could say, yes, we like what you're doing, we're okay with what you're doing, but we just need to address the parking?
Director Betty?
Yes, thank you very much. Through you to Deputy Mayor LaRose. I think with this site itself, it is constrained by its size itself and the type of building and size of building they are proposing to build. Clearly, that's their limiting factor here, is the fact that they are really maximizing the site for both building, amenity space, and parking lot. So really the only way to provide more parking and any sort of other type of solution for drop off and pickup would be to look at the building size itself and to reduce that to make some of those accommodations.
Council, any further comments or questions? Councillor Marchand.
Thank you very much for the report, and I appreciate that parking is a hot topic all the time. What I'm, when I think of we look at some of our larger schools or even our smaller schools in our community, Burkevale is a prime example. There's absolutely no parking, and there's 300 kids in Burkevale. Cars are lined up at the regular times for pickup and drop off, and it's quite orderly. I think, with 62 children in a daycare, chances are there's not 62 different parents dropping off 62 children. I think, based on that location volume, it would seem fairly seamless. Daycare is different than school. They don't all start at 8. There's various drop-off times. I think for a community, we should be supporting the Métis Nation, who is looking to build this daycare to support families in needs in our community. And I think the plan allows for, good flow, and the parking is they're not parking 3 and 4 hours at a time. It's minimal. It's for drop off, pickup. And I think it'll be quite staggered from a daycare perspective. But I think we need to look at bigger picture in our community and look at some of our schools and some tight parking drop off areas. And I think Brookville is a prime example, and there's hundreds of kids in that school, and it works in our community.
Who else need to comment or question? First round. All right, Councillor Vadabonker.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I'm supportive of the daycare. I think it's a great location. I think it's on a corridor to 2 major employers. It's it would be a great convenience for those that have small children, drop off, pick up. I think it's great, and I'd really like to see it be successful. Looking at it again from another perspective, is there a way that the municipality, and picking up a little bit on what Councillor Marchand mentioned, is to stagger the times so that instead of, everybody leaving at 4 and all of a sudden I'll take the maximum 62 kids going out to get picked up, we can stagger through maybe a mechanism in the site plan agreement that, it's going to be 15 minutes, because it's not a huge problem in terms of time. Like, those cars are gone quickly. Like, kids come out, they hop in the car and they're gone. But it's the stacking initially, and then it's the next wave. And I was wondering if we could look, you have a pickup time at 3:45, 4 o'clock, 4:15, 4:30, 4:45, and you can break that 62 up into manageable chunks. That might be another solution, but I'm supportive of the concept and the site. I just troubled with the impact on the neighborhood with vehicles stacked. And somebody mentioned earlier, our deputant, about when the winter occurs and the snowbanks start to creep. Chefcott is not a wide street, and that's just going to cause extra problems. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions, Council? Councillor Leroux.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's actually a large need for this service within the community, and I look at St. Anne's, and an example that Councillor Marchand brought forward. St. Anne's has a daycare there, and the pickup is not all at the same time. It's not 40 or 50 all at 4:30 or 3 o'clock. People work shifts, they work different hours. Some of them are only half days, so I think that is something that is not a great concern to me, and I think we should move forward with this.
Thank you, Councillor Roux. I'll just echo a couple comments that people have shared. The Métis Nation of Ontario has worked hard on this application for some time, and they're on a bit of a time crunch right now. And if the process is delayed, I think they're at risk of losing funding. I echo the comments about more daycare spaces in the town as a need. I agree with you, Councillor Roux. My kids use the daycare at St. Anne's, and we all didn't show up at the same time. We never had an issue. I appreciate the chart that's provided in the report that is a cross comparison between municipalities when we look at the number of parking space required for employees and children. And the upper limit was Ottawa and Orillia, Bracebridge, 18 to 20 parking spaces. The lower limit was Wasaga Beach with 10 spaces, and ours is 17. I think this is a great fit, and I think for these pieces we talked about, this is a great thing for the community. We have a mover, we have a seconder. We're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed, and that carries. Moving on, the next item is regarding zoning bylaw amendment regarding 1500 Sandy Bay Road. The motion reads that the zoning bylaw amendment application ZA4-2025 be approved on the basis that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms the County of Simcoe official plan, conforms the town of Penetanguishene official plan, and represents good planning for the reasons outlined in staff report PL 2026-16. And that a bylaw to amend the town of Penetanguishene comprehensive zoning bylaw 2022-17 be brought forward for approval. Look for mover, please. Moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Council, comments and questions? Seeing none, we're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. The next item is regarding heads and beds payment in lieu of taxes strategy update. Council, if I read this motion, you'll recall months ago, the CEO brought forward a report where we talked about as a community, we wanted to provide more strategic advocacy on behalf of our community, but other communities as well that are affected with payment in lieu of taxes and how that really affects us for relationship with Waypoint and CNCC as an example. So some work has been done on this from a strategic lens and how we can really work on that. And that's what this motion is bringing forward, about how we can continue leveraging and providing more advocacy and how we can look at partnering with other member municipalities to bring this forward. So the motion reads, whereas the Heads and Beds Payment in lieu of Taxes program was established in 1970 at a fixed rate of $25 per full-time university student, increased to $50 in 1973 when hospitals and provincial correctional facilities were included, and last increased in 1987 to $75 per head or bed. And whereas the fixed rate has remained unchanged for nearly 4 decades and has not kept pace with inflation, which would place the rate of approximately $180 today. And whereas the Heads and Beds Payment in lieu of Taxes also has not kept pace with provincially mandated municipal service responsibilities or other provincial payment in lieu of programs that are based on property assessment and municipal tax rates. And whereas the town of Penetanguishene has formally requested regulatory amendments through the multiple delegations with the Ministry of Finance, seeking a fair and reasonable resolution to the current situation, which the town considers to be unfair and unreasonable. And whereas the town is of the opinion that a complete and thorough review of the Heads and Beds Payment in lieu of Taxes program is necessary to ensure municipalities and local taxpayers are treated fairly and equitably in relation to the costs associated with the provincially owned facilities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene directs staff to circulate this resolution to affected municipalities across the province of Ontario to gauge interest and participate in a collective lobbying initiative regarding the Heads and Beds Payment in lieu of Taxes. And be it further resolved that the purpose of this outreach is to determine whether there is a shared municipal interest in pursuing collaborative advocacy with the provincial government to seek a fair and equitable approach to the Heads and Beds Payment in lieu of Taxes program. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Vadaboncourt. Comments and questions, Council? And just a couple more for public interest. So we've delegated this when we go to our provincial association members of municipalities. And you'll see in the motion, we said the last time that there's a rate increase was 1987 to $75 per head or bed. So if we think about Waypoint CNCC example, we do not receive property taxes. And there are businesses in town that pay way more than we receive for there. And all we're asking is that that $75 keeps pace with inflation. And that inflation rate today should be about $200. We'd rather get the tax amount, but we don't get that either. Okay, we'll call for the vote, Council. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. The next item is regarding tax rates, levies, and budget estimates. The motion reads that the 2026 tax rates, levies, and budget estimates be adopted as presented, and that a transfer of $54,730 to town's tax stabilization reserve be approved. And finally, that the necessary bylaws be brought forward for council approval. It's moved by Councillor Leroux, seconded by Councillor Vadaboncourt. Council, comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. The next item is regarding our 2025 draft capital surplus and capital carry forwards. The motion reads that the draft capital taxation surplus of $53,105 be allocated to the Roads Division garage wash bay deficit of $74,747 to reduce the increase in additional debt that is required to $21,642. And that an increased transfer of $128,456 from the Asset Management Reserve to offset the Sand Dome construction deficit of $124,001 and miscellaneous projects deficit of $4,455 be approved. And finally, that the amended 2026 capital budget, including the 2024 and the 2025 capital carry forwards, be approved. It's moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by Councillor DeRush. Council, comments and questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. The next item is regarding funding options for the Georgian Bay General Hospital fundraising campaign. The motion reads that the town of Penetanguishene continue to support the Georgian Bay General Hospital through upper tier capital funding paid through the county property tax levy to the County of Simcoe Hospital Lines and through annual fundraising events such as golf tournaments, galas, etc. It's moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Waters. Comments and questions? Councillor Mershaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is one that I had asked that a staff report come back. I feel very passionate about supporting our local hospital, although it is located in Midland. Many of our residents in Penetanguishene rely on Georgian Bay General Hospital. I think it's important. Understanding that, yes, the county supports from a hospital funding perspective. Georgian Bay General, we're in desperate need of a new facility, and we know that this is going to mean quite a significant amount of fundraising. I think it's important that we start contributing to that as a municipality. Not supporting the recommendation brought forward from staff and would like to propose that we look at option 3, that we look at approving, to provide some kind of financial support, ideally $10,000 in non-taxation funds. I think, we do other supports as it relates to attracting doctors and physicians into our communities. And I'm not sure we're going to be successful in attracting physicians to our community when we don't have a newer hospital and when we have a hospital that is starting to need significant changes. So I would like to see that option 3 be considered for council this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Mershaw. Further comments or questions? Okay, we have a mover or seconder. Councillor Mershaw has thrown out a request. I don't know if the mover and seconder want to amend the motion or if you're leaving the motion as is. Good. Any further comments or questions? We're going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That carries. We're going to move on to the next item. Is a question period from the medium public. Sarah, is there anyone online who wishes to ask?
We have no one online this evening, Your Worship.
Okay. Anybody in the public or media wishes to ask any questions from this portion of our meeting? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the next items, our consideration bylaws. And before we do that, as per the Strong Mayor legislation passed by the province of Ontario, May the 1st, 2025, I, Mayor Doug Rossny, hereby decide not to exercise the power of veto the following bylaws passed at the Town of Penetanguishene Council meeting on May the 5th, 2026, in accordance with 284-11-4A1 of the Municipal Act. And the motion reads that the following bylaws be enacted as bylaws of the Town of Penetanguishene, that they be deemed to read a first time, deemed to read a second, a third time, and carried. And this is bylaw 2026-22, a zoning bylaw amendment 4-2025 regarding 1500 Sandy Bay Road. Bylaw 2026-23, zoning amendment regarding 1-2026 regarding 15 Shefcott Street. I'll look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Mershaw, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Comments and questions?
Your Worship, could we split those bylaws out and vote on them separately?
For sure we can. And Council, just for all of the first bylaw, 2026, regarding 106 Robert Street, that motion failed earlier, so I'm not reading the bylaw. Okay. So I'm going to do them separate then, Council. So that bylaw 2026-22, zoning amendment 4-2025 regarding 1500 Sandy Bay Road, that the bylaw be enacted as a bylaw of Town of Penetanguishene, be read a first time, deemed to read, second and third time, and carried regarding that bylaw. So we'll look for a mover. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Waters. Comments and questions? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that carries. All right. The next one is going to be regarding the bylaw 2026-23, zoning amendment regarding application 1-2026 regarding 15 Shefcott Street. Motion reads that the bylaw be enacted as a bylaw of the town of Penetanguishene and that be read a first time, deemed a second, a third time and carried. I'm going to look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Waters, second by Councillor Marchand. Comments and questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that carries. Okay, Councillor, we're going to move on. The next items are announcements and inquiries. Anybody have an announcement? Councillor Leroux, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to announce that this coming Friday and Saturday is the large sale at the Curling Club. Their actual garage sale is taking place this coming weekend. So.
Thank you, Councillor Leroux. Any other announcements or inquiries, Council? CEO Lees, anything on behalf of staff?
No, thanks, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to look for a motion, Council, to adjourn at 6:45 p.m. Moved by Councillor DeRush, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? And we're adjourned. Let's take 10 minutes. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call our special council meeting to order for Tuesday, May the 6th, 2026 at 6:55 p.m. I have a motion to approve the agenda that reads that the agenda of the special council meeting for May the 5th, 2026 be approved as presented. It's moved by Councillor Waters, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Comments and questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. Council, anybody have a declaration of pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none, we're going to move on. The next item is regarding our open forum. Open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address council. Tonight, I'm going to ask that you keep them focused on the topic that's before us. And we have one item on the agenda this evening. It's regarding a water wastewater operational review. I would appreciate that there's comments and questions to be asked. We're going to keep time to 2 minutes. I'm going to ask that you direct your questions to council. I'm going to ask that you not engage into a debate with staff. I'm going to ask that we use a respectful decorum together. And just so then we can ensure we get everyone's comments heard this evening. If someone's already asked the question, maybe use your time for another question. Help us make informed decisions together. Madam Clerk, has anyone registered for open forum this evening?
Thank you, Your Worship. There are a few members of the public registered for open forum, starting with, apologies, Edna Marchand, to discuss the topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Sure. If you're registered, yeah. So again, welcome. Thank you. The floor is yours. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Kathy Martin. Don't add that to the 2 minutes. And I think the town of Penetang should be able to vote on whether we want to source out the water plant or not. It should be people from Penetang or surrounding area that take the courses and work at the Penetang plant instead of sourcing out. Sourcing out is not always the best thing. It's a slippery slope, and once you go down it, you can never come back. Midland takes on younger people. They have them work, and they are going to be going to school for wastewater management engineering. And I think we should do the same thing and encourage younger people to stay in this area, and we should train them. The other thing is we need to get a handle on the smell, and it isn't just because of all the water that we've had this year. It's been like 5 years this problem has happened. It could be the summertime, could be the fall, could be the spring. Any time of the year, you get an awful smell from the plant. So, I mean, I've heard 4 or 5 different excuses or reasons. Sorry, I shouldn't have said excuses. And I think we need to really solve the problem, because you can't have tourism when you have that smell. Okay, do I have?
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Edna Marchand is next.
Thank you for being here. And we appreciate you participating. And again, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Edna Marchand. I live on Wall Street. I want to know if it's possible. I don't know if you guys can answer this or not, but we were given $11.2 million for our wastewater treatment plant. So I'm wondering why we're outsourcing it when we've got money to fix the problem ourselves, hire local people to work there, have them educated, and keep our people here in town with jobs. Outsourcing is no guarantee for our people to have a job. We don't have a whole lot of opportunities for our young people to have jobs in this town. That's one of the ones that we have. And when you outsource, you're not guaranteed they're going to hire anybody from our community. The other thing is the environment impacts. When you outsource, when there's an impact from the wastewater plant into Georgian Bay, our town is responsible, not the outsourced company, from what I've been reading. That would be a huge detriment to our community if it happens, and it would be a detriment to our taxes if that happens. God forbid that it ever happens. It hasn't yet. But anyways, those are the things that I've been reading on what happens in similar cases where it's been outsourced to another company. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for addressing council this evening. I'll just highlight, you asked one question, so I don't know if I'll address, I'll answer it. You identified $11.2 million was received. Traditionally, when we receive funding, it's not for operations and not for staffing. It's usually for capital. It's usually to buy infrastructure, do the infrastructure. It's not for the ongoing operations. So I'm sure staff could help. I'm sure staff can help you with whatever funding envelope you're looking at, but that's traditionally what it's for.
We have an issue with the plan.
I appreciate your feedback. I just answering your own question about how we usually use their funding. It's usually for capital, and I'll leave it at that. Madam Clerk.
Megan Varga is next.
Thank you. Welcome. The floor is yours. Again, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, staff, and the public. My name is Megan Varga, and I'm the president of QP 2380. So this decision is too important to be rushed or handled behind closed doors. Water and wastewater systems are not just services. They're critical to protecting our wetlands, our woodlands, and Georgian Bay. Once control is lost, it's incredibly difficult to get it back. I am here representing the workers who operate these systems every day. These are skilled, dedicated professionals who live in this community, understand this infrastructure, and take pride in protecting public health and the environment. They are accountable to you and the public, not to shareholders. But it is just important, the public deserves a voice in this decision. These are public assets funded by residents, and decisions about their future should be made openly with full transparency and public input. Ontario's public water systems are among the safest in the world because of accountability and public oversight. This is about long-term control, environmental protection, and public trust. Water is a public trust, and it must stay in public hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and addressing us this evening. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Last up is Irene Lau. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, welcome. Floor is yours and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Council. From what I've heard and what I've read, maybe I'm behind the 8 ball, but it doesn't seem to address anywhere at all about what might happen to the current employees that are working there. And if it is outsourced, it just, like everybody has already said, this just doesn't make a lot of sense for our own town. My major question is if it's outsourced, what responsibility does the council have if something goes wrong? Or the town of Penetang and staff? I mean, is it not still your responsibility? About 18 months ago or 12 months ago, I was at a meeting where we were listening to the update from the Water and Waste Management of Penetang, the staff of Penetang who does this. And everybody was so proud with how it was working. Everything's great. Everything's working out really well. And then I read all of a sudden that we're going to be considering outsourcing this. And it never ends well. And we can't have that smell. And why is it not our responsibility to find out what's going on and to try and fix it? And yes, if that $11.2 million was set up for capital, this is still part of the infrastructure. It still has to be addressed as to what is causing the foul smell, pardon the expression, on our shores of Penetang, Georgian Bay. Thank you.
Does anybody here wish to address open forum? I have you go to Madam Clerk and register. Sarah, is anyone online wishing to address council in this open forum?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have no one online this evening.
Thank you. Final call. Madam Clerk, is anyone else registered? No? All right, council, we're going to move on. The next item is our consent agenda. So we appreciate the comments. We appreciate everyone participating in the process. I just want to start by saying that this review is a review that council has asked staff to do. So we've asked staff to do this, and staff have done their due diligence and brought back a report for our consideration, and that consideration will be done tonight. There are some comments, and I made some comments when members of the public were addressing us during open forum tonight about the process and how we'll be accountable and make decisions. Under the Municipal Act, there are aspects and times where we will go into a closed session to talk about items that have labor relations, negotiations, financial information, And those aspects, we need to protect the interests of the community. And under the Municipal Act, we'll use that to go into closed session. Council, tonight, I hope we can keep our comments for the closed items, and we'll talk about what those are later in the agenda. You have closed items, and we'll talk about what needs to be in closed at the appropriate time. We as a council, we want to have as much debate as we can in open session. So just be mindful of the items that's on your closed agenda package. When or if the time we need to ask questions and clarifying questions, we'll do those in closed. So again, let's keep our confidential pieces specifically around the financial and the risk management, labor relations. We'll keep those for closed. You have the information to make informed decisions and ask as many questions of staff tonight in open as you can. So to begin with, council, what we're going to do is I'm going to read the consent agenda, and I'm going to ask staff to introduce the topic for us. And then I'm hopeful that with the comments you've heard, from the questions we've heard this evening, from what you've seen in the reports, I'd like us to have some discussion about that, and we'll ask some questions of staff. Again, I want you to be mindful of the closed items. When or if we as a council feel we need to go and close, then we will do that, okay? The other thing I want to say, just to set the stage for everybody, I think there's been some comments that have been inappropriately made in public forums. So I'm going to state again, council is the one initiated this process. We started this months ago, and to be fair, this conversation is probably a 10-year-old journey that we've been having this conversation. It just didn't start today. It's been going on for a long period of time. I think when we hear some comments out in public about who's staff to make this decision because they don't live in our community and they don't know what we need and blah, blah, blah. I've read some pretty ignorant things that's kind of disrespectful to us as an organization and staff. I think everybody that works in our town is the greatest. And we're going to listen to what they've given us as feedback and work our way through that this evening. This is an important question. This is an important topic, and I'm confident that everyone's done their due diligence. And I know we've all heard from the public what's important, and we're going to work our way through that. So council, I'm going to read that the consent agenda and the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration, be received for information. We have one this evening. It's regarding wastewater operational review. And with that review, there's also an attachment that was provided for the public, and there was a open agenda item that's available for the public. We're just going to receive that, council, for information. To get this on the floor, I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder, and then I'm going to ask staff if they would kindly introduce the report for us. So I'm going to call for a mover, please. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Waters. Thank you. COLs. I can appreciate this has been a difficult process, and I can appreciate that staff have put a lot of work into this. And again, I know this has been a long journey. On behalf of our council, I want to thank you and the team for the work that's been done. I think we gave you almost an impossible task of doing a topic so near and dear to everybody in the community. But thanks for taking an unbiased approach. Thanks for doing what's best for the community and providing us recommendations. And I think with that, I'm looking forward to some open dialogue and discussion tonight and hearing and learning what that process looked like. But I'm going to turn to you, COLs, to introduce this, and if you can walk us through kind of what you came up with for this report and introduce council and public, please.
Thank you, Mayor Austin. I'm going to kick things off here, and then I'm going to ask Director Murray to say a few things, and then I'll close it out, and we'll hand it back to you if that's okay to take it from here on in. So thanks again, Mayor Austin, for providing staff an opportunity to speak to this, and certainly appreciate members of the public for attending this special council meeting. The item before council this evening, as has been noted, is a staff report dealing with a water and wastewater operational review, which summarizes a review that was initiated in the fall of 2025 based on direction previously provided by council. I think for those that have read the report, know that the report deals with not only essential services, but also importantly with people, employees who operate complex, highly regulated systems that protect public health and the environment every single day. Staff impact and staff welfare have been central considerations throughout this entire review. And this review has been formally happening since the fall of 2025, as was noted. So the purpose of the report is really threefold. Outline the operational models that were reviewed by staff at council's request, explain the evaluation approach that was used by staff, and provide council with a recommended direction for consideration. And this is a staff recommendation based on the professionals that are employed here as employees for council to consider and make a decision on. We know that water and wastewater services are foundational municipal responsibilities. They must be delivered safely, they must be delivered reliably, and in full regulatory compliance, not every other day or not once a week, but every single day without interruption. Council's role this evening is to really consider which operational model best supports the organization, the community, from a long-term service continuity, operational resilience, and a sustainable working environment for staff. Some aspects of the review, which particularly detailed financial information and labor relations risk, were provided to council in confidence and inconsistency with the Ontario Municipal Act. However, the public report that is in front of council and in front of the community clearly outlines the evaluation framework, the findings, the recommendation, transitional principles that can be discussed openly, and there is a financial implications section as well. So to walk council and the public through the review at a high level, I'm going to ask, with your concurrence, Mayor Rawson, Director Murray, to walk council through that at a very high level as the author of the report. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, CEO Lees. Director Murray.
Through you, Your Worship, the report in front of council tonight summarizes the operational review that was completed by the project team, which consisted of the CAO, myself, the treasurer, and the director of human resources. The review was undertaken in response to ongoing recruitment challenges within the industry, our current structure that we operate under, and the limited staffing depth that we have under this current structure. The operational review focused on a number of criteria, 6 in total, which included financial sustainability, risk management, service quality, regulatory compliance, environmental stewardship, and workforce stability. The two options, two operational models that were the subject of the review included the full amalgamation of the water wastewater operations under continued town management, and the second option, which was the outsourcing of services to an external provider. Through this review process, town staff reached out to the Ontario Clean Water Agency, which is an agency that has a presence within the county of Simcoe. And they're uniquely positioned within the county to provide those services. So they formed the third-party service model component of the review. Based on the review under those criteria, the results of the review scored the Aqua model as 92 points out of a possible 100 versus 78 under an amalgamated model. As part of the review, staff also reached out to clients and other municipalities that operate under Aqua. And at a high level, we can interview both, and all all respondents to those questions and references indicated that they were providing a good service to their municipalities. So based on a combination of those items and the review, the staff are recommending that we proceed with Aqua as the water wastewater services provider. And I'll refer it back to the CAO.
Thank you, Director Murray. CEO Lees.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Director Murray. And before outlining the formal recommendation, I'd like to just speak a little bit to the staff component and staff welfare component that I did touch on earlier, because understandably, this has been a concern that has been raised not only for many of those that might be here this evening, but also from some staff members that we've heard from, but also members of the community, and I appreciate that. And so I want to be clear that this review and recommendation that's in front of council, made from the professionals and from the employees that the organization employs, is not a reflection on the dedication, professionalism, or the performance of our water and wastewater staff. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The report recognizes the strength and commitment of the existing team and as well the critical role that they play every day in protecting public health and the environment. The issue that council is being asked to not whether staff are doing their jobs well, but whether the current operational structure provides sufficient long-term resilience, support, and continuity. And our responsibility as an employer is to ensure staff are not placed in increasingly vulnerable or unsustainable operating conditions. Whatever council direction is provided tonight, staff support, service continuity, and operational stability will remain central priorities to the organization. And so from a structural and operational perspective, the report concludes that the current model places increasing pressure on a small number of highly skilled employees, particularly during absences, vacancies, and regulatory events. And the recommendation before council is intended to reduce that pressure, mitigate risk, and strengthen our staffing depth, backup coverage, and system resilience. So with that, Your Worship, would hand it back to you. And of course, as you've noted, staff are here to answer questions throughout the meeting of council, seeking clarification, ensuring that council has all the information they need before they make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Council, you have the open session report. I want to remind us that there are closed items. If you want to ask that, please hold them for now. We'll go into close when the time is right. But I want to open up for questions, clarity, dialogue regarding this open matter, what you've heard, what's been presented. So I'll open up for comments from everyone, and then we'll go from there. Councillor Vedabunker.
Just quickly, I think it's important that it be clarified what we're talking about in terms of systems, because we not only we have the treatment plants, but we have the conveyance system in the ground, like the sewage pipes, and we have the water treatment plant, and we have the water pipes. And if the director could just clarify what's included with what, so that everybody, because we talk about systems, but there's components to the systems. Thank you.
Great question, Councillor Vedabunker. If you could help us understand what's the scope of the systems that Councillor Vedabunker asked, Director Murray, please.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Vedabunker. So for the wastewater treatment systems, those include both the Fox and Main Street sewage treatment plants, and also the 5 sewage pumping stations. On the water operations portion of the review, it includes the water main distribution pipes, all appurtenances included with that. The well treatment facilities both at Lepage and Payette, water storage facilities, and all outbuildings related to the water treatment and distribution systems.
Thank you, Councillor. Director Murray. Councillor Vedabunker.
So just for clarification then, the sewage pipes in the ground would remain with the municipality under the municipality's responsibility for maintenance.
Through your worship, to Councillor Vedabunker. So the sanitary collection system that's currently maintained by the Roads Division employees would remain with the municipality.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Council, comments, questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple quick ones to you, Brian. What happens with our fleet of vehicles that are used for the water and wastewater?
Through your worship, to Deputy Mayor LaRoche. So if council decides to proceed with the Aqua operational model, those vehicles would be surplused as part of our surplus and assets policy. So if there's no operational need for them within the municipality, they would be sold off.
Follow up?
Thank you, Your Worship. One more. the water department works out of the building which you occupy. Are we still responsible, or is Aqua going to take over that offices and working bays, things like that, or do they do an off-site system?
Thank you. Through your worship to Deputy Mayor LaRose. Through the Aqua service model, they would occupy our buildings. They would still retain in town ownership. We would still be responsible for providing electricity to those buildings. They would just occupy them as they do now. And the maintenance and ownership of those facilities would still maintain in town ownership.
Yep, Deputy Mayor.
Does that include software and maintenance work? Like I know down, especially at the sewage treatment plant, they have their, I believe it's called a main boss system that prints out their stuff and our other software. Are they attached to the town, or would they become primarily Aqua only?
Through you, your worship, to Deputy Mayor LaRose, for work order software like Main Boss and our new CMMS system, Aqua maintains their own CMMS, corporate work order management software, under their own operations. So they would use Aqua software for that. SCADA services, supervisory control and data acquisition survey software that we currently maintain would still maintain an ownership of the municipality.
Council, further comments, questions? Councillor Roux.
Thank you, Worship. Just a couple of questions. First of all, if it were going to outsourcing to Aqua, who then becomes or has control over the staff?
Thank you, Councillor Roux. Director Murray.
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to Councillor LaRue. So the staffing provided by Aqua would be under their direction and supervision.
And second one, in the report, I saw that it noted that Saturday operational checks additional $23,000.
Councillor, if we keep your questions to.
Well, that's fine. I'll do it.
I'm open to the question. I just want to deal with financial letter at the financial aspect.
Well, it is financial, but we'll deal with it in time.
Councillor Vadabunker, you had your hand.
Thank you, Worship. Just for clarity, and I know it's covered in the report, but the Ontario Clean Water Agency, or Aqua, it's a public agency?
Through your worship, to Councillor Vadabunker, it is a public agency, Crown agency, that's operated, and it's a subsidiary or a Crown corporation of the province. And they operate approximately 1,000 systems in Ontario and have about 170 municipal clients in Ontario.
Supplementary, Your Worship. So with respect to the recommendation then, currently it's operated as a public entity, and if the recommendation is accepted, it would continue to be operated by a public entity. That's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Further? In the report, and there was a question by one of the deputants with respect to the current staff. And in the report, it outlines that the existing operations and supervisory staff would be retained by Aqua. Could you describe that in further detail, please?
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to Councillor Vadabunker. If the Aqua service model is selected, as part of the transitioning process, all operations staff within water wastewater would be transitioned or transferred over to Aqua. And this would involve transfer agreements that would be drafted by Aqua for each individual employee. And this would be the process in terms of onboarding that staff into Aqua.
Thank you, Mr. Director. One last question. With respect to the weights that were applied to each of the criteria, how were those weights established?
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to Councillor Vadabunker. The weights or the evaluation matrix was based on the 6 criteria we selected as guiding principles as part of the evaluation. First and foremost, we ranked regulatory compliance as one of the higher of the weighted criteria. In addition to that was also risk management, also maintaining compliance with the system, but also risk management in the operations moving forward. Secondary weightings were also given to financial sustainability in terms of making sure that the system is affordable going forward and be able to be sustained over a long period of time. On the other lower end of things, we also weighted innovation as well in terms of bringing forward new technologies into the industry.
Okay, Council, further comments, questions? I'll come back around for more. Councillor Marchand.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do want to thank staff for the depth and time taken to create, or not to pull together this report and do the research. I think it's important. We know that we have a big decision to make. It gives me comfort knowing that there was a criteria set up, there was some establishment of what each of these models would mean for our municipality, for our residents, for our staff, first and foremost. And I do want to echo, there was a sentiment and comment made by a member of the public. We did receive 2 very favorable reports from our water and wastewater divisions. And I believe it was the water division that was in full compliance and provided that report, and appreciate the work that is done from our small, but I honestly think mighty team from that perspective. I do appreciate that there was weighting and consideration. This wasn't, here's one model, here's the other, this is good, this is bad. Human Resources was involved, Director Murray, our financial expertise as well, and our CAO and clerk. There's a lot that goes into this, and having, this report is public, and you can see the depth and the expansive amount of information that is included that supports in making a decision that has to be made. So I really do appreciate the thoroughness of it. When you look at each of these models and certainly, the challenges that present themselves, I think under the risk piece, the risk that we have as a town in terms of staffing is the same, I think, risk as well that would exist for Aqua. Given that they're a larger organization, larger entity, they can pull staffing in a different way. However, I do really feel that strongly that this is also, will consider to be also a risk, I think, as we move forward. It's more of a comment. I do really appreciate the thoroughness and the information that is within this report that allows for our decisions to be made and how we move forward with this information. So I do appreciate the depth and the scope of what's being presented. I have no questions with regards to this piece, but really felt it was important just to highlight. And I just want to echo comments made by the CAO. This is not a reflection of the staff that we have by any means. And I think that's really important to talk about that and the due diligence around mitigating factors that allow for ensuring that staff are also, this was a big part of that consideration in this report and how things were weighted and some opportunities that are also there as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Marchand. Further comments or questions? Deputy Mayor.
Hate to go again, but we'll go again. Brian, next question is on capital. Would we still be responsible for capital projects? And if we are, how does that take place? Would they run me through how a third party like Aqua would come? Would they come to you at the beginning of each year at a budget cycle and say what they want, what they need? And who would be responsible for saying that, yes, we do need it, or no, we don't?
Director Murray.
Thank you, through your worship, to Deputy Mayor LaRose. Under the Aqua service model, their supervisory staff and operations staff would bring forward, as our supervisory staff currently do, bring forward a listing of capital projects for consideration. And they would be submitted to the town for consideration as part of ongoing capital improvements as part of our 10-year capital plan. So that process would follow a similar process as we do right now. The decision of the implementation of those capital projects and the prioritizing of those capital projects still remains with the town. So the prioritizing and the scheduling of those works would still rest with the municipality.
Follow up. Council, further comments or questions? Councillor Vadabonker.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not sure if this question is directed to the director or the treasurer, but I want to understand the relationship, if we go down this road, to the town's responsibility to prepare and update its water and wastewater financial plan. So we do that, we update it every 5 years, and I understand it's a 10-year plan. Could you, the last one was adopted in 2024, so it'll go till 2029. So could you kind of explain the process, how that's going to get updated, the responsibility to update that financial plan? Will that rest with the municipality, or will it be a shared responsibility, or would it be Aqua? Because in that plan outlines a lot of details in what you were saying in response to the Deputy Mayor's question.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabonker. Director Murray.
Through your worship to Councillor Vadabonker. The preparation of utility rate studies and financial plans for both water and wastewater operations would still rest with the municipality as the owner of the system, or the systems. The operational component would be guided by, if the Aqua service model is selected, would be guided by the agreement or the contracted service costs outlined within those agreements. But the capital component would also remain a big factor in the setting of rates on an ongoing basis. So it would be a combination of both operating and capital, which would still rest with the municipality to complete those studies, bring forward recommended rates for adoption by council.
Follow up, Councillor Vadabonker? No. Council, further comments, questions? I have a couple here, Director Murray. I've received some emails from members of the public, and I just want to share with you what they've shared with me, and if you can help me with this. So I'll start with the first one. So when you compare the cost of Aqua contract, it includes operating costs only, not capital. All capital works are extra. Our own operating budget for water and wastewater includes many capital expenditures. So you need to confirm that you're comparing apples to apples. Now, I believe the Deputy Mayor kind of asked that, but my question, I don't want to get into the numbers piece, but did we do a fair comparison of apples to apples as was asked?
Thank you, Your Worship. In terms of comparing the operational costs of the Aqua model, the maintenance costs and maintenance repairs is accommodated within the Aqua model. Capital repairs would be brought forward to the municipality for consideration for capital plans. But when we did review the Aqua costs in comparison with our existing operational costs, we did take that into account when we factored and analyzed and compared the two.
Thank you. My next question. Once in an Aqua contract, it's almost impossible to get out. All of the equipment you purchase will be sold as secondhand surplus, while new equipment will require an enormous capital investment. As the contract renews, you no longer have a bargaining position with which to obtain favorable cost. They can dictate the terms and costs, and the town will have little recourse. So another question that was asked, and I said I'd ask that question.
Thank you. So any equipment assets that are purchased under the Aqua model would be still retained by the town as owners. The ongoing maintenance of the system is included within the Aqua contract, but again, the capital is separate, and that would be brought forward by Aqua to the municipality for consideration. And so the physical assets will always remain maintained with the town.
Thank you. I've kind of heard this question a little bit, Director Murray, from individuals, and it's about our level of service that we're going to get less. So here's the question. Aqua represents a reduced level of service. With the hub system, we're a tiny spoke in the wheel with operators on site for quick station checks and then out again. Can you help me understand what that looks like from a deliverable?
Certainly. Again, the Aqua operational model with their deep depth of staffing resources would only benefit our service levels, and it would address a lot of ongoing recruitment, staffing issues, staffing absences due to vacations and otherwise. So their depth of operator roster and also their value-added services. They also have in-house engineering teams, a lot of value-added services that we could benefit from. And the sheer size of their client base, we would be able to benefit from experience with similar systems in other parts of the province that they could bring to bear to us. So while we do provide an excellent level of service under our existing model, I do think there is opportunities for increased level of service under the Aqua model.
Thank you. My next question is about compliance, environmental infractions, and basically we've got a good track record. We've been doing great. Does Aqua have as good of a track record, and what risk does the municipality assume, both financial and risk to the system, from an overall integrity of the system?
I think from an operational compliance perspective, our existing operations do an excellent job of meeting our regulatory requirements. The depth of staffing resources that Aqua can provide will only help us in terms of meeting our requirements. They are responsible for over 1,000 systems in the province of Ontario. So they have a lot of engineering experience, operational experience that they can bring to bear that I think that will only help us going forward. Though the sustainability of those large resources that they can bring to bear will only help us be more sustainable going forward in terms of meeting our regulatory requirements, which we're already doing a great job at. But it's the resources that they can offer to us is a benefit to the municipality.
Thank you, Director Murray. My next question's for you, but if Director Heighton wants to take it, happy to. So I've had the opportunity to discuss this with some of my colleagues at county, and I think everyone's in the same position where we're talking about human resources. And again, I think Councillor Marchand said it a while ago and COE said it a while ago, this isn't about our existing staff. It's about maintaining system and capabilities as we move into the future. And I made some notes when members of the public were addressing tonight, and we had some comments about let's keep jobs in our own town, let's use local people, young people, keep local. Like I heard some of that comment tonight, but I would really like to hear kind of our experience and from a system experience. And again, I've had the ability to talk to others that are in the same position. What's recruitment, retention like? What's the reality like today? It may even give a little bit of an eye shot like the last little bit and into the future. And are we alone in this, or is this a system-wide approach? I think we need to understand what that really looks like, if you can share some of that information with us.
Thank you, Your Worship. To answer your question, I do believe the industry night right now is there's a great demand for operational experience and qualified operators. The pool or the depth of pool of experienced operators is very low. I would say that's an industry-wide problem that's out there. So in terms of recruitment of qualified staff, a lot of operators in the province are recruiting and hiring OITs, operators that are just coming out of college and really have no operational experience and basically starting from the ground up with operational staff. So that I think that's a system-wide issue that's out there right now. There's just the level of qualified operational people out there is quite low. So we're when we go out to recruit and hire staff, we're often competing with other municipalities which are having the same problem. So it's a demand and supply problem, I think, right there, out there right now. And I think that's kind of across the province.
Thank you. Council, further comments or questions? Councillor Vadabonker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director Murray, I just want to follow up on a question that the mayor asked with respect to Aqua's level of service with staff at the plant, either at the water treatment plant or the wastewater treatment plant. I can't remember the expression you used, but just in terms of whether they kind of fly in and fly out. I think that was something similar to that. But could you just elaborate a little further in terms of what that what their approach is? Thank you.
Thank you, through Your Worship, to Councillor Vadaboncourt. So the operational model provided by Aqua is supported by a central hub, and they have satellite operations that operate out of that central hub. The operations would be very similar to what happened right now, with qualified licensed operators doing station checks, operational checks at the water and wastewater treatment plants, completing our sampling. So the structure and the staffing levels would be quite similar to what we have right now. Meeting our regulatory requirements, making sure that we're meeting our sampling requirements. Those types of things would still happen on a regular basis. So that would be very similar to what we're having right now.
Follow up, Councillor Vadabonker, you good?
Thank you. A follow-up, but to a different question. Just going back to the financial plan. So the financial plan, as outlined, has a few more years left in it. If council decides to go with Aqua, there's a capital component with that financial plan. The expectation would be that Aqua would follow in with that capital plan as outlined in the financial plan.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Vadaboncourt. So we do have a set 10-year capital plan that's approved by council and reviewed by council every year. Through the Aqua service model, they would go through a similar process of onboarding with their operations. They would bring forward recommendations for our consideration, and we would update our capital plan like we do on an annual basis. So that process would be very similar to what we do right now. And the operating component of the Aqua contract combined with the capital component that is still managed by the municipality would make up the financial plan for both systems, and the rates would be set after that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, I want to ask another follow-up to your, I think you said the word OIT. My understanding is that's an operator in training. Can you help us understand what that looks like? So I'm going to go back to some of the questions about keep local and hire local individuals to do this. So my suspicion is we can't hire a summer student and they're done at the end of summer. Help me understand, like, if there's someone local that wants to do this, what's that journey look like to become a certified operator? And what's that training? What are you looking for? You know, back to that recruitment retention, I'd like to understand a little more what that looks like.
So in terms of the recruitment and the training, OITs, you can get your OITs in wastewater collection, water treatment, water distribution, water treatment. So there's a number of different facets to that. A number of OITs have all of them, and some focus on just water or wastewater. What was required in terms of, operational requirements at plants and in well facilities, you need to be classified to the classification of the system. So, for example, our wastewater treatment plants require a Class 3 operator. So you need to achieve your OIT Class 1, Class 2, and then your Class 3. And in some instances, those you can write your examinations for those classifications through periodic opportunities throughout the year. But the other component of that is operational experience. So that for an OIT, it could take upwards of 3 or 5 years or more to get fully classified to the system that you're operating within. And so obviously, as you progress through your classifications, obviously it does provide operational support in terms of being able to go on call, being overall responsible operator in charge. So having these licenses is critical in terms of being able to support the operations. So it can take quite some time to get those licenses once you're at a high school, college, or university, and getting a job with a municipality or other agency.
Thank you. Councillor Marchand.
Just to follow up to that question, what precludes us from bringing people in at different classes? They don't all have to come in as OITs.
Through your worship to Councillor Marchand, we do prefer when we do post to get classifications that are higher than OITs. Often we will post for Class 3 wastewater or Class 2 water operator. It's just the depth of qualified candidates out there are not there. So we get OITs primarily. You might get a Class 1 occasionally, but we're finding that those qualified operators are just not out there, or they've secured employment, or the base of available talent isn't there. So we're getting a lot of OITs applying for these positions, and what that means is that we're getting good candidates, but they're not able to jump into the operations as quickly as maybe a more experienced operator would.
Council, further comments and questions? Elise, any follow-up comments from anything that's been raised so far, or has Director Murray answered it?
Thank you, Your Worship. No follow-up. I think Director Murray's done a good job at answering Council's questions. Thank you.
All right, Council. What I think we should do is we've had a lot of opportunity to ask questions. This is a consent agenda item. We're receiving this for information, so we'll receive this. I'm going to suggest we move into a closed session. We did have some numbers and some questions that were asked, so we'll have an opportunity to ask those. For all of our interests, the closed matters will only be dealing with financial matters and risk-related matters. So any of those other matters we'll bring back into the open session. So unless there's any other questions, I'm going to call for the vote to receive this matter for information. Any final questions? Okay, see none. I do have a move and a second, so I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. And just for members of the public, there was no decision made there. All we did is said, let's receive the information for information. That's all we've done there. So next thing for members of the public, we are going to move into closed session. You don't need to go anywhere. We will. So again, Council, the importance here is I only want to be looking at financial matters that's on the closed agenda items, and anything that's related to risk management. So any of those items, not closed items, that's what's appropriate for there. If it's an open session, we'll come back here. Any decision that Council does make in our closed session, it will be contingent upon the decision that Council make later in the evening when we come back in open. So the motion reads, Council, that in accordance with the Town of Pantanguishene Procedural Bylaw 2023-50, that the Council of the Town of Pantanguishene move into an in-camera session to discuss labor relations or employee negotiations, financial information supplied in confidence to the municipality, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. I'm going to look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Waters, second by the Deputy Mayor. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That's carried. So we're going to move into in-camera, Council. Again, members of the public, you're welcome to stay. We'll come back from closed session and we'll share what we can in open session, and then there'll be a further discussion in open session from there. So there will be more on the open session when we return.